Alrighty, this will be the recording for Chapter 2, but before I get directly into that, I'd like to actually make a couple of things and add them in. Thank you for making it to Chapter 2, and I'd like to basically say appreciations for a couple of people that actually helped me, during writing and stuff. Personal thanks to Matt, he's who he is, for basically being there and one of the most recent string of people I talk to regularly for the story. I'd like to say thank you for Nathan Singer and David Howland II. I really botched his last name there. Sorry about that, David. But both of them actually got me started on the process of actually writing and writing for my own stories, because before that I was just, writing fan fiction. And also, a personal thank you to my now wife, Brandy McKenzie, or now Brandy Sanders, who actually has been an infinite help in writing, editing, and putting up with having to listen to me actually read some of these chapters out over and over and over again. Yes, the editing process is not necessarily fun for even the books, let alone the audio mixing. She is currently smiling off to the side and has been very capable and, well, it's been great having her. Now, anyway, on to starting the actual chapter itself. This one's going to be a little bit shorter than the first one, so I should be able to run through this now a little bit faster than the 18-minute mark, which is why I'm putting all of the thanks and stuff like that now. Should have done it in the first one, but I was really wanting to get this out and about as soon as possible. Chapter 2. Lee grabbed a waist-high root and vaulted over it. "Aye!" came a war cry while another arrow sailed over his head. He raced past another tree, doing his best to weave around anything that could stop an arrow. "I have no idea what I'm doing," he explained, frowning when he remembered the comment about sandpits. "Curses, if I stop, I die. If I run, I die," he growled, finally coming to a stop. He tightened the grip on the broken bottle. Flight is out. Let's try option 2, he growled, hunching forward and trying to make a smaller target of himself in case they still had arrows. The tribal men leaped forward in front of him with a few grass skirts, while the others had dirty pants and pirate belts. They had rusted swords, and even one had a boarding axe. They all seemed kind of painted masks with different expressions. I instantly regret my decision, Lee thought to himself as the tribesmen began to spread out. They moved carefully, unwilling to strike first. Lee moved in time with them, careful to keep close to a tree. He had to make sure the tree was out of his way if he ever needed to pull back. "Keep calm," Lee replied under his breath. He needed to remain as calm as possible. With this men out for his skin, a simple mistake would mean the end of his little rebellion. Lee needed to calm down. The world is a harsh place. "Yeah, goodbye, kid. If I wanted your opinion, I'd beat it out of you. Back to work. Roll your eyes again, boy. I dare you. 30 lashings!" He could feel the scars on his back tense under the skin, his old anger boiling inside of him. "I will not die here," he roared, charging the closest man. The sudden scream seemed to stun them, while he slashed the busted bottle at the end of his neck, spilling blood. His hand, on instinct, grabbed onto the spear he was holding. With an arm that relied more on luck than skill, Lee speared another of his attackers, pinning him to the tree while the remaining 4 charged forward. Lee grabbed the body of the first attacker and tossed it at them. Lee broke into a full sprint, snapping back branches in hopes of slowing down his pursuers. He leaped over another upraised root in his way. "I need to think something big and sharp," he told himself, while one of the native dudes dropped by his side. The native brought down the boarding axe Lee's head. He dropped, stumbling into a roll when the blade threw a few hairs off his blonde's head. His first hit home as his fist hit home at what he thought was a Native American when the blow connected, sending the air out of his lungs. The pain in his body smeared. He didn't miss a beat while a question rang into his mind. His fist hit jaw before he lashed onto the axe when the other 3 finally caught up. "So, body paint?" he asked, all 3 taking a step forward. He hefted the axe over his shoulder when he turned to look at the guy he had taken it from. "God forgive me, I'm going to do some very terrible things," he muttered, resigning himself. He swung the axe, creating a sickening crunch, while blood and gray matter spilled down to the roots of the tree. He palmed the hilt as he glared at the remaining 3. They all glanced at the dead body, but only one hissed at him. Lee glared back, charging as he swung the axe. He was aiming to hit another head, but the other cutlass weaved under it, and he fell back. Another with a spear leaped at him, stabbing at his chest. He sidestepped, avoiding the blow, while he swung with his left hand. The man, and with the cutlass charged, steel to steel, Lee raised the axe in time to catch the blow. He felt his knees give out while the cutlass loomed over his head. He slammed his elbow back, nailing the man in the groin. "Ah!" the man cried, falling to the ground as Lee grabbed the cutlass. With both hands armed, he took a step back from his three hunters. "I see how it is. I start holding some damn weapons, and you start keeping your distance," he screamed at them. "I see how it is. I start holding some damn weapons, and now you start keeping your distance," he screamed at them. They remained silent. "What? Cannot speak anymore?" The only one still armed flung his spear, nailing Lee in the side. His knees gave out as both weapons fell to the ground. His body went limp as the natives walked over, while the other two flanked him to retake their lost weapons. The last one grabbed onto the spear and drove it deeper into Lee's limp side. He didn't even twitch. The other two, figuring it was safe, went to reach for their weapons, and in a flash both heads were on the ground, while Lee slashed the shaft of the spear off. In one throw, he sent both weapons into the shoulder of the man that he stood by his feet. The body collapsed while blood flooded the earth. "I don't play games when my life is on the line," he grunted, pushing himself to his feet. He reached for the spearhead, still embedded in his side, and while he looked at the other two weapons. Both of the bodies by his side were missing a good chunks of their neck, not even bothered by the smell. He grabbed the cutlass and clumsily whipped the blood off the blade. "Not bad. Good steel," the parrot screeched. "Fuck you," he said, taking a step forward, but only fell to the ground. "I really didn't have anything left in me," he realized. As he rolled onto his back, he noticed a bit of blood running out of his wound. His hand twitched, but he couldn't find the will to move it. "Never leave a job unfinished," a voice in his mind. He let out a low groan. "Funny. You don't know how tired you are until you fall down," he realized, straining to get himself onto his feet. "On your face," the bird squawked. "I think I found breakfast early," he growled as the bird flew off into the leaves. Between the stab wound and all the traveling, he was no fit state to attack the irritation. He glanced up at the sky, noticing the clouds began to burn with orange while the setting sun. "Lovely. I've no trail, and now shelter. This just keeps getting better." He pressed his hands against a tree with the force of the forest became a bit patchy. The dirt gave into a rocky incline as he stumbled into a hole in the ground nearby. Wincing a bit as he stabbed the cutlass into the ground, he tested the terrain. "Too loose," he said with a frown. "Well, I guess a tree might be better suited." He glanced back at the woodland. "I'm too tired," he muttered, turning to take a step forward, but he suddenly fell backwards. "Shit," he groaned, slamming his back into rock. He rolled down into a hole ways before skidding to a stop. He lifted his head blearily before dropping out of consciousness. Lee could feel his body being dragged along the ground. His awareness was faint, but he knew without a doubt that he was being moved. A low groan escaped his lips when he heard a low, whimpering noise. "What?" he wondered, surprised a bit as a wet tongue hit his face. "What?" he asked, opening his eyes to see a pink tongue covering his vision. The animal moved back, and he saw a painted dog, not a painted dog. He saw a panting dog. It's easy to recognize how do you pronounce it? An Alsatian shepherd? Alsatian shepherd, with pointed ears and a black and tan coloring. Overall, it was a very beautiful dog. He reached out slowly and started to pet the side of its head. The dog leaned into his hand before pulling away. "Easy there, I don't think I need you." "Ah!" he said, wincing as the dog did exactly what he wished he hadn't. The dog had licked at his side. He pushed the dog away as hard as he could. The dog vanished from sight before a cold nose hit the back of his neck. His hand went for anything, but his mind caught up to where he was. His vision swam for a moment before he passed back out. "Wake up!" someone shouted, as Lee felt a massive sting graze his face. "Easy, Larissa, you just patched him up. Why did you have to slap him?" a male voice asked, while Lee shook his head. He tried to touch his face, but found that despite the strength returning to him, he was bound to something. "Just fantastic," Lee growled, forcing his eyes to see that his wrist and ankles had been bound to a table. "Well, you didn't expect us to let you have a run of the place. We didn't survive this long by trusting just anyone," someone said. Lee exhaled his anger, looking up at the ceiling. It looked like it made up of a bunch of roots. I can see how that would work, but I don't much like being restrained. Told you you wouldn't be happy, a meek voice said. After letting his vision focus for another second, he glanced around to see a woman standing by his side. Larissa, I presume. Sorry about that, cats. Lee asked, looking at her. She had short, blonde hair with a reddish tint that curled on her shoulders. Purple eyes studied him under her gaze, while he glanced lower. She spotted a green dress that, despite her environment, seemed in good shape. Her look was finished with a brown cloth corset that held up her rather impressive chest. Lee tore his eyes away, doing his best not to let the view distract him. That's always where they look for, she sighed, shaking her head. So where are you from, and why are you here, and what are your intentions? She asked, resting one hand on her hip. I take it you've done this before, Lee implied, focusing on her eyes. You're the 5th person this week. But with how most stumble upon us, you're the first to be dragged in, she said a quiet voice. Quiet, Larissa hissed. Yes, ma'am, the voice said, accompanied by a small shuffling. Enough, said a third voice. He seems willing to talk, which is more than we can say for anyone else so far. Can we get a name? He asked. His voice, however, seemed more of a demand. My name is Lee Robert Zane. I was part of the SS Cryptic, but was captured by Pirate Brasi, the flame mask flintlock. I was forced into service on the grounds of not wanting to drown. I have a feeling something was off when we came to the island, so I stole a map and made a break for it. As for intentions, getting the fuck off this island seems like a good summary, he said. Seems legit, replied the third voice. He seems nice. I mean, the dog likes him. I mean, dogs only like nice people, right, big brother? He asked. Well, the older brother said, that's a myth and means nothing. Your story seems true enough, but just so you know, Larissa said, approaching his head, she took out a dagger from her belt and stabbed it into the table by his head. We are armed, and you are still recovering. Lee looked at the dagger immediately to the table. So, are we good or not? As far as I can tell, too many life-threatening experience in the past day to really care about your threats, Lee said dully. Are you saying we should keep you like this? She said. Lass, that all depends on what you plan on doing with me, he says, giving her a wry smirk. Travis, untie him, she ordered. Yes, ma'am, he said. A rather pudgy man with a shaved head appeared to cut the bonds. He was wearing a too small striped red shirt and brown pants that were threadbare. Lee sat up, spouting a lone figure leaning against the wall that was clearly showed to be under a tree. But the man himself was very stringy with curly brown hair, and he spotted a lace brown up vest with long shorts with a short sword on his belt. So, Travis and Larissa, you would be, Lee asked, rubbing his wrists. Her name is Dr. Larissa Pertwee, he corrected. Lee rolled his eyes at the taller figure. Continued. My name is James, he said, resting a single hand on the hilt of his blade. Don't mind my older brother. You don't last long on this island by trusting people, Travis said, holding out his hand. Lee shook it, smiling at the pudgy man. Travis Smith, it's nice to meet someone who isn't out to kill me, he said. Lee let out a low chuckle. Likewise, he said, returning the smile. So, do you have an actual idea of where you're going to get off this damn island? James asked, crossing his arms with a hint of sarcasm etching his voice. Okay, I think I rolled through that a little quickly, but overall I have to admit, Chapter 2 is running out to be quite nicely, and a heck of a lot shorter than Chapter 1. So, I think that'll be wrapping up for Chapter 2, and I appreciate your continued actually reading off. I apologize if I came off a little bit quickly. I guess I was just roaming with it. I might try again re-recording this at a later date, but for right now, I think we're good. Anyway, appreciate you coming through for the second chapter, and hope you come back for more.